Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and welcome to this month's Four Horsemen build for July 2021. Theme is a drag truck. It's a Hot Wheels casting, Real Riders Studebaker pickup truck with a metal chassis. Like I said, rubber wheels, really nice casting to begin with, and looking forward to delving into this. If you guys want to participate, next month, for example, we're doing the 70 Street Machine for August, and the place to submit all your pictures is fourhorsemandiecast@gmail.com. So, first step, obviously, is to take the whole thing apart. And I have, at this stage, kind of a rough idea. I want some ladder bars, wheelie bars. I want a motor that's 3D printed from Benchwork Toys. And I want to cut the hood out. I got all kinds of plans. I got some wheels that I plan on using, which are some slicks. Goodyear, Real Riders, not sure. I think they came off a gasser. But there's a lot of hacking to do in order for me to get this to a stage where I'm going to be happy. The wide slicks in the back look awesome. The problem is they don't fit. And I'm going to Dremel off the inside of the fender wells because the inner fenders are pretty thick as far as castings go. So obviously I'm going to have to cut the chassis as well. But this is something that if I just cut the chassis to narrow the rear end, the chassis would have been less than 1/4 of an inch thick, like where the differential would be. So I've got to do it, and then it would look stupid. It would look like it's going to tip over because the wheels are so close, but yet not set out far enough in the body. So this is a two-parter. I'm going to have to grind away the inside of the fender wells, and I'm going to have to grind away some of the actual chassis itself. And I kind of have, there was a point where I almost got to the point where I was going to just hand make a chassis because I had to cut so much from this, and being metal was just kind of a pain in the neck. But as you can see, all the metal shavings there, I got a little collection going. I got a jar somewhere. But what I'm trying to do is just thin it out enough where it doesn't look stupid with the wheels sticking, so far in. Like I said, I don't want it to look like it's going to tip over because the wheels are set in so bad, which is real easy to do. So just carefully and slowly grind away, take a little bit more, grind away. It's easy to go too deep. So this is just something that, this is sped up 150%, but you got to take your time. And once I think I've got to the point where it's pretty decent, I'm going to use the same tool to grind the little tabs off. I'm a big fan of the metal chassis, but when I have to do a lot of cutting and stuff, I actually prefer the plastic because it's just easier to work with. But yeah, if you just grind away the tabs, I'm going to end up hacking these channels out where the wheels go because I end up using axle tubes. But just to get the wheels off, and I'm trying to not really damage the wheels. I don't care about the axles so much. I'm not using these wheels on this, but I could use them on something else. So being Real Riders, I want to preserve those the best I can and add it to my collection of rubber wheels. A lot of times I'll mix match stuff, so these are all the same size, so I could probably use them for the fronts for something, or if I do another Gasland style build, or I got a Volkswagen build I'm thinking about doing, these would be perfect for. So the big thing, knowing I'm going to have to do axle tubes, is grinding off the remaining parts of the tabs where it holds the axle down, and then most axle tubes are, I want to say, 3/32, so they're much bigger than the .025 that the axles are from Hot Wheels. So you have to widen that out quite a bit to get it to sit in any semblance of a way that's going to not be wonky. So, and you want to maintain the location. So that's pretty much what I'm kind of trying to do. I'm fitting it, seeing how much I'm going to have to cut initially right off the bat just to get the, now that I got the bed narrowed, and shaved. Now I've got to do the chassis. And again, this is one of those, just, you can't rush it. Here I'm just trying different things to see what's going to work. Pretty much got to cut front, rear. Um, it's just a time-consuming thing. It's not a big deal. It's just something that it's easy to take too much off. Here I kind of still had hopes and dreams that I could just narrow what was there, and there's usually a little tab that keeps the wheels away from the chassis. It only sticks out maybe a 16th, so I'm kind of trying to ground that off and then go a little thinner. But in the end, that's not enough. I have to really go pretty far and cut all that off. That part that sticks up right there that holds the wheels in. So, that was pretty much what I cut off. You can see it looks a little smaller on camera than what it is, but it's probably maybe a 3/8 to a half an inch wide, which you can see the crap everywhere. This stuff makes a mess. You got metal shavings everywhere. Make sure you're not drinking anything that's open nearby, because it will get in there and it's pretty crazy. But here I'm using, actually I did this because I wanted to show the 5 different files that I'm using. Then again, you just got to try fitting things, and it's easy to take more off. If you take too much off, you're screwed, and you have to go a different direction. So here I'm pretty much as happy as I'm going to be. Everything fits nice. So I'll go ahead, cut the hood out, and you see me fingering it there, enjoying myself too much. Stripped it down, and now I can see all these crazy casting marks that you couldn't see with the paint because Hot Wheels puts it on so thick. So I'm using my Dremel tool, lower speed. This has got 10 on it, so I think I'm on 3. Just barely putting any pressure with this flexible sanding disc. Just trying to get these casting marks, mainly in the front, because it's really, really obvious, especially where the headlight buckets would be. So again, this is easy to take too much off, so just take your time. If you want to use a file, that works great too. Just takes a little bit more effort. Same thing with sandpaper. It takes a little bit more effort. All will work fine. The metal is soft enough where no matter what you use, it will work. It just matter how much time you want to put into it. I tend to always be short on time, so I try to find little things that make my life a little bit easier. And I'm not giving you the finger there. It's the way I'm holding it, and I just noticed that. And I do own a vise. Actually, I've got a bunch of them, but you can see I cut the front off after I trimmed it down a little bit. Then I got to cut that little tit off because I have to custom make an interior as well. The goal by cutting the front grill out is I'm kind of making my own. It's a drag truck, so it's designed to go, an 1/8 mile or a 1/4 mile. So I don't need a radiator. So I'm pretty much just going to block that hole off with a piece of styrene. I suppose I could have left actually I probably couldn't have, because I didn't have much room that motor that I'm using barely fit in there, and I had to grind that down as it was. So with that grill piece, that was, I want to say 3/32 thick, and it just would have been too much. So with the styrene, I can put this in there and then kind of sand it down a little bit, and worked out really, really well. And I'm not measuring anything. I'm just using the ruler as a straight edge, because I know anybody who watches my videos knows I don't really measure shit. But I am just using it as a straight edge. But it works out really well. And it's actually kind of cool. I end up painting it black, and it's something a drag truck would have. So, and I left the other two holes beside the headlight buckets open for air intakes. So here's the motor. It sits too high in the truck. So this Benchworks 3D printed motors, and all their products are really, really very well printed. And you can see how sturdy that is and how much I have to take off. You can see all the grinding dust. To me, that's a good sign of how stiff this stuff is and how easy. Almost took a finger. Kids, don't try this at home. You can see just how sturdy that is. Sometimes you get 3D printed parts and you try doing this with it, it'll break in half. So this stuff, kudos to this. It's really great stuff. But I'm just taking a little off the bottom so that it'll sit at the height that I'm looking for within the engine compartment, and not have, the entire valve cover on up sticking out of the engine compartment. Because you remember, this is a truck, and the engine bays are pretty deep to begin with. So to get the engine to look proportional, that's just kind of what I had to do. You can see those 2 bars there that I put that I'm gluing right now. Those are axles. It's piano wire from K&S 0.024. It's the same size as axles. So I use that because that's what's going to support the truck when I go to put it on. And it allows the frame, because I pretty much had to cut everything off that you would use to mount the body to the chassis. So that allows me, those 2 bars sit on each end of the chassis where the interior is, pretty much where that piece is. So the interior wasn't going to work. Obviously, that came with the truck. So what I have to do is I have to make my own. So again, I'm breaking out my trusty straight edge knife and my big pile of styrene. I've got fresh sheets, but most of the stuff I'm doing is small, so I always keep all my scraps. It allows me to repurpose everything, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. Is I'm making a base, and I'm just kind of at this point seeing where it's going to line up with those 2 rods that I put in there for my body supports, I guess you could call it. But I had cut that little tab off the inside of the chassis where the interior would have sat, and that allows me to put that new styrene piece in and have it sit nice and flush. Works out really well. And I'm pretty much just using everything that I have. I had some 3D printed, a 3D printed seat and a 3D printed steering wheel. So I'm using that as well. Kind of what I'm doing here is just kind of marking off where those bars are. And it presented a problem because that's kind of where the one in the front is where my dash would be to a degree. So I'm kind of building around that and creating a channel between my firewall and my dash that piece will sit flush, and you'll see later, I think. It's hard to explain, but again, trial and error. You just have to try different things, and you have to think of how you're going to put it together in the end. And sometimes it doesn't matter depending upon what you're doing, but in this case I had to make sure that I could slide that body straight down and not have it be obstructed by anything, especially with those 2 body supports. So again, glue it, test it, glue it, test it. I know it sounds like a broken record, but take it from somebody who's screwed it up so many damn times, I lost count. So you can kind of see I made the dash. You can see that gap right there. That's where the green is. That's pretty much where that front body support is going to sit. So now I'm just taking my 3D printed seat, trying to line that up, and everything's hunky-dory at this point. Real easy. It's just one of those things. You just got to take your time and have fun with it. Sometimes it gets a little daunting because you customize yourself into a corner. Some of you who've done this know what I'm talking about. It's just one of those things. You got to be afraid, not be afraid to try different things. This is a piece of round styrene. I'm going to kind of squish it a little bit, and I'm going to make a transmission tunnel out of it. Real simple to do. In the past, I've done it where I've cut them in half. It's just a kind of a pain in the neck to do. So because you're not going to see anything that I'm doing right here, even the interior, you're barely going to see when it's all together. I just decided to squish it a little bit, and that gave me the appearance of a pretty deep transmission tunnel, which is what I was after with that effect. Anyways, again, I always keep all my scraps because you never know. I buy the assorted bags, and those work out really well. And once in a while, I'll hit my local hobby shop and I'll pick up a bag of styrene for something or other. But see right there, you can kind of see I'm just going to glue it down after I mark off. Perfect. But overall, it's building an interior is a pain in the neck. It's rewarding when you're done, but man, it'll test your patience. So you can see my pile got bigger and bigger and bigger. I end up ditching that roll bar. Didn't work. One of the things I got to work on is some of my fabricating skills. I wanted to do a full roll cage, but I kind of ran out of time and patience. I cut this wing off of another truck that I had. I just thought it would be kind of cool. I'm still kind of torn on it. I like it in the end, but I probably should have fabricated something instead. The tonneau cover that I made is out of a piece of K&S aluminum, just real thin stuff. So after priming it, I decided to go with a burnt iron paint from Splash Paints, single stage. Not single stage, but it's you don't have to mix it with anything. It comes out really, really nice. It dries flat. You end up putting a clear coat on it, and you end up having a perfect result. But I can't just leave it. It's a drag truck, so I got a big drawer filled with. I never throw anything away. So I was just looking for some decals. I was going to make it a shop truck, but I think we have a shop truck challenge coming up for the FOUR HORSEMAN later on this year. So I decided to. I'd got these generic Hellion decals, so I put those on. So I got everything glued in, painted. I made some nitrous bottles. I use a 3D printed gas tank. Got my wheelie bars on there. Overall, I was really surprised at how good this came out. For the amount of effort that I put into it, usually when I do that, I screw it up right at the end. So it gets a little frustrating. There you can kind of see I put my 4 coats of automotive clear on, and it looks, in my opinion, I think it looks really, really good. If you like the content, make sure you like this video and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of all future videos. Not sure if you guys are aware, but I do have an Outlaw Custom Club YouTube membership with special benefits. Some members-only content like website discounts to customs that I have for sale, behind-the-scenes videos, progress pictures and content, so on and so forth. Make sure you check it out. So this is pretty much what we started with. Plain Jane, white, Real Riders, metal chassis. I'm happy with the way it came out. I hope you guys not only watched this whole video, but you watch all the videos from all the diecast participants in this challenge, especially the FOUR HORSEMAN. I will have links down below to the FOUR HORSEMAN participants as far as the 4 of us. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe. I had a blast building this. I hope you guys had a blast watching this. Hope it gave you guys some ideas. Stick around. I got a couple pictures here. I will catch you on the next one.